Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Joe Cortez, joined by James Burns, as always, of FrontRowPreps.com. We're here to do our weekly top 10 ranking show, large and small school, brought to you by Valley Orthopaedic, the bone and joint specialist. Burnsy, we're here again at Escalon High School in the locker room. We've got the section championship banners behind us. Always feel nice to be having those over our shoulder. Escalon will be involved in a big game this week. We'll talk about that later. But first, let's start with our small school top 10. Big Valley Christian comes in at the number 10 spot.
Yeah, the Lions take on Delta Charter this week, and the Lions actually dropped in the poll this week, even though they beat Millennium last week. We forecasted this. We said once BBC gets into their league schedule, because of the strength of schedule, it's going to be tough to keep them any higher than 9. And with the way that the TV on the Southern League are competing this year, that was the case this week. We had to drop them to 10.
Okay, we've got number 9, Waterford, and number 8, Orthopaedic. They meet up this week. A big Southern League match.
It's a tell-all type game for the Southern League here. You got Orthopaedic coming off a 2-game losing streak. They're kind of searching for themselves a little bit. And Waterford is a team looking to get to 7-8 wins to boost its playoff resume. And, the Wildcats might be catching the Warriors at the right time.
Okay, number 7, Sonora. They take on Amador, a big mother lode league matchup. Sonora kind of righted the ship after a real tough preseason. But this is just funny to me. Number 6, Denair.
Yeah.
Who would have thought Denair be ranked ahead of Sonora when we started this thing a few weeks ago?
Denair is winning with a tried and true formula, though. They've got 8 seniors returning on both sides of the ball. They've got 3 or 4 backs that can run the ball out of that wing tee. And they get great coaching from Anthony Armas.
Number 5, Escalon. They take on Ripon. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Number 4, Ripon Christian, the aforementioned leaders in the Southern League. They've got Mariposa. Number 3, Hillmar, taking on number 2, Modesto Christian this week. And that's our game of the week.
It's our game of the week. And this is one of those weekends that we've had circled, on the calendar for a while now. We thought the TVL was going to offer us these matchups almost every other week, and here we are.
And it has.
And they have. This one is interesting because it's a rematch of the Sac Joaquin Section Division 6 final, a game won by the Yellow Jackets. Modesto Christian was the higher seeded team in that final.
Hillmar won big.
And Hillmar won big. And so this is one of those ones where, if you're a Crusader, you've been looking forward to this game. But they'll be without their star this week.
Xavier Cartland, he has to sit out a game because of the altercation. In the Livingston matchup, section rules, if you're ejected for an altercation, you sit out the rest of that game and the following game. So that's a big loss for them. And then number 1, Ripon, taking on Escalon. And again, we're going to talk about that more in our prediction show coming up in a bit. Let's now move over to the large score, number 10, Pacheco. They've got Mountain House this week in a game that's probably for the WAC title.
They're being led by a dark horse candidate, MVP type candidate, Marcus Ordunez, the quarterback. We knew that he could run the ball in that offense, but he's really showcased his arm in recent weeks. He's a dynamic offensive weapon. Kind of reminds me of the Patterson quarterback last year. He could beat you on the ground, beat you through the air. They're rocking and rolling right now. And like you said, they've got Mountain House, a team that's undefeated in the WAC. They've got a bunch of kids back.
Coached by Jason McCloskey, the former Central Valley head coach who coached Jaquan Gardner in his final high school season. So this is going to be a big one.
This one will decide the WAC title.
It will indeed. Number 9, Grigori, taking on number 5, Downey, in a really big, I almost said MMC matchup, CCAL matchup.
Grigori's coming off that loss last week to Pittman, and it was a game that we thought, for both sides, really, Pittman and Grigori, whoever won that game was going to really announce and cement themselves as a contender in the CCAL. Little disappointed in how the Jaguars fared in that one. Being so hot, winning 4 straight to get into that game, put themselves in
50 points a game.
But maybe that just speaks to how well Pittman is playing right now and how well they're coached. This one, though, for me is, if you're going to have any kind of confidence going into that postseason, if you're a Jaguar fan, you've got to see you almost got to get a W this week against Downey.
Number 8, Buhack Colony versus Central Valley. Number 7, Oakdale taking on Kimball. Manteca's got Weston Ranch, no trouble there for the VOL teams. As we mentioned, number 5, Downey is at Grigori. That's at Don Lanphier Stadium. Number 4, Turlock at Enox. Should be no problem for the Bulldogs there. Number 3, Pittman is at Modesto. Modesto really needs this game.
Falling outside the top 10. We were so high on them coming out of that Stag game. At least I was. Just the way they played defense in that game, and they really stopped that potent, that prolific Stag offense, that passing attack. Since then, they've kind of looked tired and sluggish and struggled to finish games. Zaire Eugene and Davion Graves were basically non-existent in last week's loss to Turlock. And this has got to be a bounce back week for them.
Okay, and rounding out the top 10, if anybody has a chance to beat the Bears, maybe it's Patterson. I'm just throwing stuff against the wall, seeing what sticks. And number 1, they've been number 1 all year. Central Catholic, they're on a bye this week.
Yeah, it's a light week for the BOL. Oakdale, Manteca, Central Catholic should be favored to roll. Merced, I feel like nobody's going to stop them in the CCC. Patterson is a team that I feel like might be a year away with all that young talent. You've even said, they're kind of a tough team to gauge, but really there's nobody stopping Merced in the CCC.
Nobody. So that's it for our small school and large school top 10, brought to you by Valley Orthopaedic, the bone and joint specialist. For James Burns, I'm Joe Cortez. We will see you next week. Thanks for stopping by.